Hello and welcome to Mrunalsmathtutorial. Today we're going to look at sketching quadratic graphs. So the learning objectives that we're going to focus on today are sketching quadratic graphs. We're going to do this by factorizing and identifying the x-intercepts, and also we will be looking at completing the square briefly and identifying the coordinates of the minimum or the maximum point. So let us begin with the first question. Please excuse my voice because I'm having a little bit of cough. All right. So the first question we have over here is to sketch the graph of y equal to x square minus 3x minus 4. So we know that this is a quadratic graph because we can see that the power of x is 2, right? So when we think about the quadratic graph, there are two types of quadratic graphs that we can think about. One is, I call it as a smiley face, or you can also call it as concave upwards. And the second one is a sad face or concave downwards. So now we need to know, how do we identify whether this is going to be a concave upward or concave downwards. So look at the coefficient of x square. Over here the coefficient of x square is 1, so we can conclude that the value of a is 1. That means it is positive. Yeah, when a is positive we are going to have a smiley face, and if a was negative we would have a we would have a sad face, right? So there are three things that we need to have in our graph. The first one is the roots. We may also call it as the x-intercept. And the second thing we need is the y-intercept. And lastly, we would need to indicate the maximum or the minimum point. Right. So how do we achieve all of that? The first one, to get the x-intercept, we are going to set y equal to 0. The y-intercept is, you can identify it from the question. So when we have a quadratic y equal to ax square plus bx plus c, we know that this c is going to be your y-intercept. And the coordinates of the minimum or maximum points, we are going to achieve this by completing the square. Right, so let us begin. Let's find the roots first. So what I'm going to do is, for my equation, I'm going to set the y as 0. So I'm going to get x square minus 3x minus 4 equal to 0. So now we need to factorize, and the last term over here is negative 4. So we need to think of two numbers that multiply to negative 4, and they should add up to negative 3. So what are the two numbers that multiply to negative 4 and add up to negative 3? Obviously 2 times 2 is 4, but they do not add up. These two factors will not add up to negative 4 or negative 3, sorry. So we're going to choose 4 times 1, negative 4 and positive 1. The reason being, if you look at the middle term is negative 3. So the greater number or the bigger number should be negative and the smaller one should be positive. So the factors over here would be then x minus 4 and x plus 1 equal to 0. Setting each bracket to 0, we get x is equal to 4 and x equal to -1. You may do this by using your calculator to get the roots. Yeah, when the question is to sketch, you're not expected to show this working. If you just write x equal to 4 and x equal to -1, you will get full marks. Yep. So since this is the first question, I'm writing all these steps so that you can have an example if you're making notes. Right, so I got that x-intercepts, or we may also call it as the roots. Let's look at then, these are the roots. We're done with this, roots. Yeah. Now let us look at the y-intercept. The y-intercept you can identify from your equation itself. So the y-intercept is going to be (0, -4). I get this from the equation itself. This is -4 from the equation. As I said, the value C. Now let's go to completing the square. So we're done with the y-intercept. So this is the y-intercept. That's done. Let's go to completing the square. Now, when we complete the square, we take half of the middle number. So here the middle number is 3. Half of 3 is going to be 1.5. So we are going to keep the sign intact. So the same sign that you have here, minus, copy the same sign. And then half of 3 is 1.5. Complete the square and minus 1.5 square. It's always going to be minus. I will post another video in detail to explain the steps for completing the square. Now, use your calculators and calculate what is 1.5 square minus 4. So 1.5 square and minus 4, that gives me minus 6.25. And then now the coordinates of the vertex are, in this case, I know that it is a smiley face, so I know that it's going to be a minimum point. So coordinates of minimum point are it's always minus p comma q. So if I compare this with a x plus p bracket square plus q, the coordinates of minimum or maximum are minus p comma q. So in our case, it's going to be minus of minus 1.5, which is 1.5, and q is going to be minus 6.25. Now that I have all the things that I need, the roots over here, the y-intercept, and the coordinates of the minimum point, I can go ahead and sketch my graph. So the graph is going to be over here. Important to label the axis, y and x. So we're having the first root as -1. So let this be -1. And we have +4 approximately over here. The y-intercept is -4. So can I just indicate here -4? Yeah. So the graph is going to have a minimum at -6.5. Probably I just should need to move this slightly up so that I have some space here. Apologies for that. It's -1, 4. Let's erase this off so that I have some space for the vertex as well. So my graph would look something like this. And I will indicate my vertex at this point, which is 1.5, negative 6.25. And your graph should have symmetry at x equal to 1.5. So if I ask you what is the axis of symmetry, you should be able to tell me that the axis of symmetry, the equation for the axis of symmetry is x equal to, so let us put this as a dotted line here, right? So the axis of symmetry is at x equal to 1.5. So you would score marks if your graph looks symmetrical about the vertex, yeah? And you have indicated the minimum point, the y-intercept. Over here, the y-intercept is at 4. Oops. At -4. You can see that. We'll mark it with yellow here. Yeah. Ignore the previous one. All right. It doesn't want to work with me. Okay. There you go. Yeah. Right. So once you have done all of this, you should get full marks. It comes worth 4 marks in IGCSE, and at AS level they would ask you only complete the square. Let's come to the next example. So we are having sketched the graph of y equal to x squared plus 4x plus 1. I'll complete the question by adding, indicate, the coordinates of the point, where the graph crosses the y-axis, and the coordinates of minimum point. Notice that in this question we are not required to show the roots. What are the roots? What are the x-intercept? Yeah. So we just need the point where the graph crosses the y-axis and the coordinates of the minimum point. So let us begin. So we are having y equal to x squared plus 4x plus 1. We know the y-intercept clearly from the question. The y-intercept is going to be 0, 1. And now let us complete the square. So we're going to take half of the middle number. The middle number b is 4. So half of 4 is going to be 2. X plus 2 bracket square. And we always minus square of this number that we wrote here, which is b, plus 1 as it is. This 1 is from here. So just copying it down there. So that gives me x plus 2 bracket square minus 3. So the minimum point is minus 2, minus 3. Remember from the previous example, it's minus p, q. Right? So now that I have all the information, I can go ahead and sketch the graph. Remember to label your axis, y and x, right? So we have the y-intercept at 1, 0, 1, and we know the minimum is at -2, -3. So let me just extend this line towards the left. -2, -3. So we know that this is -3. So this is my minimum, -2, -3. So the graph is going to be symmetrical about x equal to -2. So it's just going to be symmetrical about x equal to -2. Right. I think it's okay. Almost there. Right. Let's make a dotted line. So we need to draw the graph that is symmetrical about it, approximately symmetrical. So it would look something like this. Remember, it is a smooth curve, it's not pointy, right? So we have indicated the minimum, we have indicated the y-intercept. We are not required to indicate the roots in this question. So don't waste your time. Such a question would be worth 3 marks. Yeah? All right. Let's move on to the next question, question number 3. Oops. Over here, question number 3. Sketch the graph of gx, which is equal to 18 minus 3x minus x squared. Notice that the coefficient of x squared is negative. It's -1. So we clearly know that this is going to be a sad face, right? So let us now write down y equal to 18 minus 3x minus x squared. We know, back of the mind, keep that back of the mind, that this is going to be a sad face. Yeah. We also know the y-intercept is going to be 18. Yeah. So let's write the coordinates. That would be 0, 18. Right. And now let us complete the square. To complete this square, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just rewrite this as in the standard form, minus x squared minus 3x plus 18. I just wrote it in the standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. Remember the rule of completing the square. The coefficient of x squared should be 1. So we're going to take out the -1 as a common factor outside. Coefficient of x squared should be always 1. So we're going to be left with x squared plus 3x minus 18. Right? It's all right to just take common factor with the first 2 terms, not required with the third term. What I mean to say is somebody would have just taken common factor with the first 2 terms. That means you could write x squared plus 3x. So I'm just leaving the 18 as it is. It's acceptable. And now take half of the middle term. Good idea to put a square bracket. Half of 3 is 1.5 minus 1.5 square plus 18. Now let us just expand with the negative. So this is going to be expand with the negative. That means negative to the bracket and negative to 1.5. So negative and negative is going to give you positive. So we're going to get x plus 1.5 square, positive 1.5 square plus 18. Combine the like terms. What is 1.5 square? Which is 2.25 plus 18. That is going to give me 20.25. So I know that in this case it's going to be a maximum point because it's a sad phase. So the maximum point will have coordinates minus 1.5 and 20.25. In case we are required to show what are the roots, we can set the y equal to 0. So I'm not going to go and factorize. I'm going to continue from here. So this is also one of the ways that you can do. It's all up to you. If you want to factorize, if the factors exist, then you can factorize, or you may set this equal to 0 and then calculate the roots. Since I factorized in the first question, I'm going to do this method, move it to the other side. So I'm going to have x plus 1.5 square equal to minus 20.25. The minus on both sides should get cancelled. So we can write this as x plus 1.5 square is equal to 20.25. Take square root on both sides. So x plus 1.5 is equal to plus or minus square root of 20.25. And then x should be equal to minus 1.5. Remember, plus. So it's going to become minus on the other side. Square root of 20.25. Use your calculators. You're going to have one of the roots to be positive with positive 20.25, and the other one is going to be with the negative square root of negative 20.25. Right? Let's use the calculator. So minus 1.5 plus square root of 20.25 is going to give me 3. Or minus 1.5 minus square root 20.25 is going to give me minus 6. Alright, now that I have everything I need, that means the roots, which I calculated right now, the y-intercept and the minimum point, I can go ahead and sketch the graph. So I'm just going to move this onto the side so that I have some space. I'm going to sketch the graph now. Remember, it is a sketch, it's not an accurate graph. So look at the roots. You're having 3 and minus 6. That means you would need more space onto the left side. Let's move it a little bit on the side. So label this as x and y. Let's say minus 6 is here. Positive 3 approximately here. And then we have minus 1.5 and 20.25. Oh, it's a sketch, so don't think that you will be able to fit everything in this graph. So I'll just try to move the y-axis slightly above, trying to indicate 20.25. Remember to use pencil while sketching in the exam. as you can see how many adjustments you would have to make. So let's say this is 20.25 and let's say this is 18 approximately. I'm going to first draw and then I'm going to put the coordinates. Sometimes when you draw it may not come as you like. Okay, apologies. This is a curve. Right. So it's not that good. Let's try again. So we could say that this point over here is looking a little bit crooked. It's okay. Minus 1.5 comma 20.25. If I've indicated it here, it's okay. And this is 0 comma 18, the y-intercept, and I already indicated the x-intercepts. All right then, so we had 3 examples today wherein we looked at sketching the quadratic graphs, and if you like the video, please drop a comment and please write down in the comment which other questions would you like me to make video on, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you.